Moses, a magician or a miracle worker? Moses. Prophetically speaking, let's speak prophetically for a minute, Israel was poised to inherit the promises. They were. That God had made to their ancestor Abraham. Remember that? When he gave all those promises there? But here's the thing. They went into the desert. They had trials. And the trials in the desert exposed a nation that was completely rebellious to God. Completely. 100% completely rebellious. A nation that refused to serve him. Think about that. In our modern day today, that we're living in today, it's our modern day. Think about that also as well. How could they see so many miracles of God and still not believe in him? That's probably a question we've asked before. We read the Bible and we see all these miracles, the pillar of fire and the cloud, the water that comes from the rock, the manna that fed them and their clothes never wore out. How could they not believe in God? All those miracles. But it's so easy for us to look back to the goggles, if we want to say, of our past, to the passages of the thousands of years that have been backwards in time. And many of us will hiss like a snake would at the unbelief of the children of Israel. How could they be like that? And I'm sure you've probably done that before. You probably sat around a coffee table and said the same thing and say, man, how could they make those mistakes? But here's the thing. We risk repeating the same mistakes. We really do. Israel's chief problem, their main problem probably was this, that they were raised to believe in a priesthood. And they knew that priesthood represented gods who were not even real gods. In Egypt, for instance, the priests of the false Egyptian gods were feared by the people, not because the people feared the gods the priest represented, but because the people feared the power of the priest. Most people looked upon the priest as the ones with all the power. Did you know that? And they followed the religion of the priest because the priest had magical powers that caused the people to tremble. Magicians, When Moses came, think about this, when Moses comes upon the scene to command to deliver the children of Israel from their bondage, he was coming to a group of people. Makes me wonder about today. Coming to a group of people who were wholly invested in the religion of the nation that was around them. As they saw God work the miracles of plagues on the Egyptians, most Israelites, most of them, clearly believed it was Moses who somehow was drumming up the miracles. They thought it was him. Let me say this. I can't produce a miracle for anything at all. I totally rely upon God and his wonder-working power. Remember this about the Israelites. They were accustomed to Egypt's priests. They absolutely were. They were working miracles in the name of their gods. But they were magicians, so they weren't real. No, none of those gods, neither the Egyptians or Israelites really believed in. Did you know that? So when Moses came along, it's true. When Moses came along and began working miracles in the name of the one true God, only one, the Israelites mostly just assumed Moses was just a better magician. That's what they thought, than the priest of Pharaoh. So did they think he was a miracle worker or a magician? It seems incredible, huh? Come on now. Some of us have prejudged and dug apart people that have ministered in the name of the Lord, and we've seen miracles working in their services, and we've derailed them and said negative things about them. But yet God did miraculous things among them, just like he was with Moses. It's no different than the world we're living in today, isn't it? There are some people that won't believe no matter what sign is given to them. It's the absolute truth. Even the New Testament says this. In the book of Luke chapter 16 and verse 31, and he said unto them, if they hear not Moses and the prophets, neither will they be persuaded, though one rose from the dead. So when God did a miracle, and Lord, he can do some amazing miracles, the unbelieving people of their time and the Israelites, they credited Moses, but praised God with their mouths. But they credited the man. When times got tough, the people exposed their unbelief and expected Moses to work his magic and get them out of a jam. Is it a possibility that maybe you put too much faith in your pastor or that preacher that's up on the stage instead of giving God the glory and God the praise and God the credit? For it's he alone who does the miracles. It's easy for modern day Christians to scoff at the Israelites' unbelief. But I will say this with certainty. Such unbelief is still rampant today in our generation of time. We're no different. Many Christians have no idea what a relationship with God is. Most don't. I'm talking about the ones you go to church with. Most of them go to church out of a religious cracker setting for a 35-minute meal when they're out the door, but yet have no relationship with the living God. Most of them depend upon their preacher or their pastor or their evangelist or prophet to do as what Moses did. They expect him to meet with God and then tell them what to believe. If people really believed in God, they'd go to him themselves. Should underline that in your Bible. Knowing that he is a God who is available to all. Why don't you go to God? Why don't you go talk to him face to face in the throne room of heaven? Why don't you get to know him? Instead, many of us Christians, we want someone to do the magic for them. Can you just pray for me? Because they don't believe as they profess to believe. Was Moses then a magician or a miracle worker? He was neither. He wasn't neither one of them, was he? Moses was simply just someone like you and me who understood that God is real and that he is interested in the most intimate details of our lives and personalities. So those who have a relationship with God don't need miracle workers. I don't. You see, their friend, my friend, is God. He is the source from which miracles flow. Think about that tonight before you go to bed. Good night.